Alright guys, welcome back. Now let's take everything we just talked about before and put it into the airplane. Mhm. We'll start applying this upgraded ETCA to the four basic maneuvers step by step. So let's start with straight and level flight first. Establish. Set your 2300 RPM for power first. And for VFR flying, your number of reference is the outside picture, right? So start by setting your number one reference point on the horizon. I just draw the Merkel lining with the top of the compass right here to explain easily. And then confirm it with your attitude indicator inside. Or, now here's an important note. Some pilots prefer to set the attitude indicator first, so you can set the pitch degrees about like 2 to 2.5 degrees inside, like right here, and then match that to the number one reference number reference point where the horizon hits. Well, either way works as long as outside picture and the instruments agree. So and for typical, I need to say this one first. So for a typical Cessna 172 training setup for the straight and level, a good starting point is power about 2300 RPM and airspeed is about 90 knots. Okay. So again, simply put, just set your 2300 RPM for power first. Then set your number one reference point on the horizon and match it inside. Or set your attitude indicator about 2 to 2.5 degrees and match it outside. If your pitch is correct and the airplane is trimmed, then the airspeed will naturally settle around 90 knots. Let me check. See, it's around the 90 knots into 2.5. Okay, nice, great. Oops. What else? So T. Okay. This one for the establish, and T is trim, and trim of the pressure, so the airplane holds that outside picture. And C, cross check, now confirms the results, just airspeed stable or around 90 knots, and attitude stable, VSI near zero because it's a straight level, and heading stable and coordinated. A, adjust. If something is drifting, make a small correction, please. And then just trim it again, cross-check again, and continue to repeat. And one more technique I recommend, actually. Set your heading bug during the establish step to help. It will help prevent heading drift, okay? Good. Now let's move on to lever turns. Establish. Well, for VFR flying, your number one reference is still outside picture, right? So roll into a shallow to medium bank, typically about like 30 degrees. And now here's the key. If you keep the exact same pitch picture you used in straight level, your altitude will usually start to drop when you're turning. And that's because when you bank, the lift from the wings tilts with the airplane, and some of that lift is now being used to turn in the airplane sideways. So less lift is available to hold you up. So to maintain altitude, you need a slight pitch increase. Basically a little more back pressure. I'm gonna talk about this more when we learn steep turns later, okay? And now for a really practical outside reference tip is if you're turning right around the 30 degrees, and just a picture, the horizon will often line up near the sun visor on the co-pilot seat. And if you're turning left around 30 degrees, the horizon will often line up near the left overhead, near the left overhead air vent. So on your seat, so like this, okay? That gives you a consistent outside picture to hold, okay? And just like a straight and level, there are two valid ways to set it up, of course. You can set your outside reference first, then confirm it with attitude indicator. Or you can set the bank on the attitude indicator first, then match it outside. Either way works, yeah. Use just whichever method feels more natural to you. Then set your power. Actually, before banking, your power should be around 2300 RPM in advance. And if you notice the airspeed is starting to bleed off while banking, at the time, increase power slightly, often around like 50 or 200 RPM, like around 50 to 100 RPM, depending on the airspeed trend. Just a small input, please. So to summarize, set the power 2300 RPM first before beginning, and then set the bank using outside picture or the attitude indicator inside, whichever you prefer, typically about 30 degrees, and add a slight pitch increase to hold that altitude, and keep having power around 2300 RPM, then increase power slightly to maintain about 90 knots. T, trim. Trim it so you're not holding constant pressure in the turn. And C, cross-check. Yeah. Now confirm all altitude stable, airspeed stable, heading moving smoothly. And one more thing. One more big one is coordination, actually. Yeah. Please check the turn coordinator and keep the ball centered. Remember, it's just a step on the ball. Now, if the ball is left, hit the left rudder, and if the ball is right, hit the right rudder. I will explain this also, like what the ball is actually doing to the airplane. When we cover steep turn, I'm gonna let you know. For now, just remember this: keep the ball centered as much as possible. And A, adjust. If altitude starts drifting, correct pitch first. If airspeed starts changing, increase power slightly. If the ball is off center, fix it with rudder. Then trim it again, cross check again, continue to repeat. Does it make sense? Great. Now let's move on to climbs. There you go. A lot of student pilot think a climb is just full power and pull the nose up. And honestly, that's what it feels like at first, sure. But there are two big things that students mess up all the time. And if you fix these two, your climbs will instantly get smoother. So the first one is the level of technique, and the second one is rudder control. Okay, so the first, one of the biggest mistakes students make is waiting until they hit the altitude during climb, then pushing the nose down. That's when you start chasing the airplane, actually. So here's the simple fix. Start leveling off about 20 to 30 feet ollie, and set your straight and level outside picture. And inside, set the attitude indicator to your normal level attitude, right? Then let the airspeed accelerate and bring the power back to around 2300 RPM and trim it off, okay? And the second big thing is coordination, which is rudder control, yeah. In a climb, the airplane naturally wants to turn to the left. So the ball often slides to the right. When that happens, just a step on the right rudder and keep the ball centered. I will explain why the airplane wants to turn left later when we talk about stalls. But for now, just remember, in climbs, take the level off and ball seriously. One thing more. Last but not least, just you should set your full power before starting to climb. No, set the pitch first when we are established step in ETCA, okay? Good. Then let's go to the climbs now. Climbs actually have two different types, VY and VX. So first, let's start with the VY climb first. Before we start, here's the easiest way to understand VY. Think of climbing like going up a hill on a bike. If you go too slow, you feel unstable and you struggle. And if you go too fast, you can't climb as well and you waste energy. So VY is the best climbing speed, and we call it the best rate of climb. If the it's the speed that helps the airplane climb up the fastest and the most efficiently. And that's why most of the time after takeoff we climb at VY. Well, sometimes if there's an obstacle or a specific situation, we might use VX instead. But don't worry, I'll explain VX more when we get to that part. Okay, let's go to the ETCA. Established. Set full power first, okay? And for VY climbs, your number one reference point is going to change. Nice. In a Cessna 172, a simple VY outside picture is this. Your reference point now is your glare shield. Right here. Okay? For VY. So the horizon sits close to the glare shield. And the glare shield is basically the top of the dashboard, right under the windshield. And so set the VY pitch picture outside and confirm it with attitude indicator, or you can set about between 7 and 8 degrees nose up on the attitude indicator first, then match that to your outside picture. Okay. If your pitch picture is correct and you trim it properly, the airspeed should naturally settle around VY about like 72 knots. Okay. And trim. Yeah, trim off the pressure so the airplane holds that picture. And cross check. Now confirm that like airspeed near VY 72, altitude increasing, VSI positive, heading stable and coordinated. And don't forget the turn coordinator, sure. In a climb, the ball often slides to the right, so keep it centered with right rudder, okay? Adjust. For example, in this case, even if you set 8 degrees, but it's not giving you 72 knots, and speed like 69 or 70 something, at the times just you can lower the pitch slightly, okay? Just a small correction with pitch. Then trim it again, cross check again, and continue to repeat. Yeah, sure. Does that make sense? Okay. And this is for VX. Okay. Here's the easiest way to understand VX. Imagine you just took off, and there's a tree or a building in front of you. In the moment, you don't care about like climbing fast over time, right? You care about getting high as quickly as possible over a short distance. That's what VX is, and we call VX the best angle of climb speed. And here's the important part. VX is not just like a pull as hard as you can. If you pitch up too much, the airspeed drops below VX, and your climb performance actually gets worse. Okay? Great. So ETCA, yeah. Establish, set full power first. Just like VY, your number one reference point changes again, right? For VX, your number one reference point moves up to here, like up to the top of the PFD. We call here is PFD, or I couldn't get the picture for VX climb, I'm sorry, but the goal is to fly a picture where the horizon basically lines up right here. Okay, it's kind of hard for you to see the horizon where it matches, but if you see over here, then you can check like it's it's hits the top of the PFD. All right, well, yeah, and yeah, set that VX pitch picture outside and confirm it with attitude indicator, or set about like 10 degrees nose up on the attitude indicator first, then match that to your outside picture. Yeah, either way works, sure. And if your pitch picture is correct and you trim it properly, the airspeed should naturally settle around Vx, about like 65 knots. And right, and T is trim. Yeah, just trim off the pressure so the airplane holds that picture. C, cross check. Now confirm airspeed near Vx, altitude increasing, VSI positive, heading stable and coordinated. And just like VY, don't forget the turn coordinator. Keep the ball centered with rudder. Step on the ball, okay? And A, adjust. If you drift off speed, correct with pitch first. Then trim again, cross check again, continue to repeat. Does that make sense? Right? Alright, let's move on to the descent now. Here's the descent. And one quick reminder, during descent, don't just watch altitude, watch your airspeed, stay coordinated, and don't forget engine management if it's a carbureted airplane. If in a carbureted airplane, that also means being smart with carb heat and avoiding aggressive power chops for long distance, okay? Okay, let's go with ETCA for distance then. Pull the power first at about 1800 RPM. And for descent, your number one reference point changes again. I'm going to call this the 2x pitch or 2x reference point. Here's what that means. In a straight level, where's the straight level? Yeah, there you go. In a straight level, you already built your number one reference point on the windshield right here, right? And you can see this gap between your number reference point and glare shield. This one is 1, okay? And for normal descent, you're going to place the horizon higher, right? And about like twice. It's kind of tilted picture, but it should be like same. I mean, equal space between them. So, well, but like just about like twice as high compared to your student level reference point. That's why I call it 2x. Okay. Yes, it's a simple way to create a consistent descent picture. With that descent picture and 1800 RPM, the airplane will often settle around 90 knots, and with about like 500 feet per minute down. And it's not an absolute rule, but it's a very common training setup. Okay. T, yeah, trim up the pressure and cross check. Now confirm like airspeed stable, altitude decreasing, VSI around 500 down, heading stable and coordinated. And watch out the ball here too. Good. And A, adjust. If you want a steeper descent, reduce power slightly. If you want a shallower descent, add a little more power. Then trim again, cross check again, continue to repeat. Everything same. Does that make sense? Right. Power size. Yeah, okay. Great. Alright, okay. So today we've done, yeah. So today we focused on four basic maneuvers: straight level, lever turns, climbs, and descents. And honestly, these might sound basic, and in most flight training, instructors often explain them quickly, and then you just go fly. I understand it. Ground time can get expensive, so they usually keep it short. But in my opinion, this is the most important part when you first start learning how to fly. Because once these four are smooth, everything else in private pilot training becomes way easier. And more importantly, this is where you start building a real professional flying habits. And since this is YouTube and I'm not charging you by the hour, so I wanted to take my time and explain it the right way. Well, Anyway, next time we are going to cover something more fun, especially the slow flight, flaps up and flaps down, and steep turns. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment anytime. Yeah. Well, that's all for today, and thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Thank you.